Right, here we go. Podcast in Murray Bridge with the big fella. Got Nath here. Nath's our leak detection manager. Sitting here next to me, we've just gone on a bit of a failed field trip.
Bit of a flop.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, a bit of a flop. Can't win them all.
But we'll fill you in on that later on. Now, mate, I wanted to do a bit of a semi-serious podcast, something that I feel might be pretty, I know is close to your heart. So I want to do one on mental health. So I guess I wanted to start with and I got my question here. I know it's something you're really passionate about.
Yep.
Advocating for it within the workplace environment. So I guess I just want to know, a bit about your story about why you're so passionate about mental health in life, and also predominantly within the workplace.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with when I was younger. It sort of wasn't like a thing that was acknowledged when I was growing up. It was sort of something that you were like, don't get me wrong, like family beautiful, all that sort of stuff, but it was something that wasn't really acknowledged as like a, mental health. It was just something you weren't feeling good, or like you were just a bit flat or something like that. And then, it was all like that through my like teenage years. I'd wake up feeling like that sort of flat, not really wanting to get out of bed, not really wanting to do anything kind of thing. And it sort of exacerbated a little bit more into sort of like an anger sort of thing as I grew older. And I didn't know what it was because I'd never been exposed to it, I guess. And then I met my wife now, who's had a pretty rough upbringing in that respect with mental health and things like that. And she sort of enlightened me to, there's something more than you just being flat and upset. There's actually, it could be a chemical imbalance or something that's hereditary or something. And once I actually had that acknowledgement and stuff like that, and realised that there was something going on in my head that is not necessarily right, I understood it a lot more, and I understood what was going on, and all those sorts of things. And ever since then, I think it's just something people need to be so much more aware of, because it can be a really delicate situation with people, and you don't always know that someone is struggling, because it's not always something that's put to the forefront of someone, kind of thing, if you know what I mean. So I'm just passionate about it because I never knew anything about it, and I was never exposed to anything when I was younger, up until probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it's just something I've been really wanting to sort of get the confidence to talk about, and not push it on people, but make people more aware. I think.
That's important. And I guess do you think that being because I would sometimes look at you and think, like, you look, that saying people say, like, you're 6 foot and bulletproof, whereas for you it's 6'8". So do you feel there's a bit more like pressure on your shoulders when you're like a definitely masculine dude? You know what I mean?
I think that that's one of the biggest playing parts in who I am anyway. People just expect you to be, a big bloke, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you, look at you, you're tall, you're held at a good stead, like in sporting facets and things like that. I think it's sort of a stigma that's put on people. Like if you look like you should be okay, people think you're okay. And it's not always the case. And I think it goes a lot hand in hand with like a toxic masculinity aspect as well, because growing up playing football all my life, like toxic masculinity is a big thing that's in football clubs, and unfortunately it is still in a lot of football clubs, something you're trying to stamp out of it. And sometimes you go to the old saying, just toughen up, you'll be fine, and it's still so prevalent nowadays, and it's not something that should be said. So what
can you fill me in what do you mean by like toxic masculinity?
It's just like just
like that footy club culture, is it?
It's not just footy club culture as well. I think it's sort of like a boys club culture, if you know what I mean. Like you're not allowed to show your emotion. Blokes aren't allowed to cry. If your mates see you crying, you get called, piss weak and stuff like that. Like I still don't feel like it's accepted for blokes to properly show their emotion without getting, shreds torn off them, sort of thing. And it's a really hard thing. Like you said, I'm a big bloke and stuff like that. You'd think I'd just get on with it. But I'm, you'd probably know, I'm I'm a big softie, like really when it comes to it. Like I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I've learned now to, you know, I'm not scared to show my emotions or anything like that now, and I think that's really important for all males, because I think not just males but people in general have a big thing of holding in things and keeping things to themselves. And I've learned from my own personal journey and perspective that the more you hold things in, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
It doesn't get better.
Yep.
Yeah.
So have you come a long way with the you know, when you're saying that it manifested with anger?
Yeah.
So do you have strategies now to deal with that better than you used to?
100%. So the biggest thing that helped me was when I first actually went to go and see someone. That was a massive step for me. That was very, very hard to actually take that first jump and admit, you know, I'm not okay. There's something going on. And the way it manifests most of the time is in anger.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I don't want to be a violent person or anything like that. Not saying I'm like physically violent or anything like that, but, you know, I'd yell easily. I'd get frustrated inside, and I wouldn't know how to get it out, and it just manifested in anger.
Yeah.
So strategies now, I do practice a lot of mindfulness. You know, through the day, I'll take, you know, 15, 20 minutes. I'll pull over somewhere, wind the windows down, you know, look outside, just taking the surroundings, the sounds, smells, everything like that, just try and shut off. And it might not sound like much, but it does, honestly. It's
like a circuit breaker.
Yeah, it helps so much. It does. It disconnects you from everything else that's going on. And just little things to sort of acknowledge when I'm not feeling good, or when I'm feeling, you know, depressed, which is now what I can call it, not flat. When I'm feeling depressed, or I've got anxiety or anything like that, I'll get up, I'll go for a walk.
Yeah.
I'll occupy myself with something healthy.
Yeah.
Whether it be a walk, whether I go to the gym, you know, whether I go down to the reservoir with my wife, do something nice and sort of, you know, not take your mind off it, but promote something healthy, like a good feeling.
So it sounds like you might be a bit more like woke to it now
100%.
When you're feeling it. Like, is that
big time?
Would that be true?
I can definitely identify when I'm not right. Put it that way. Like, there'd be times, you know, a couple of years ago, I'd wake up for work, and I physically, like, literally could not get out of bed. I couldn't pull myself out of bed.
It manifests into like a physical...
I just felt like I had a ton weight on me, and I could not get up out of bed, and I was like, what the hell's wrong with me? Like, so I had zero exposure to it, and I did not know what was going on. I didn't know how to battle it. I didn't know how to combat that.
Yeah.
Now I understand what it is. Now I understand what's going on. You know, I might wake up and feel like that now, but, you know, I'll think of things that I'm thankful for. I'll think of things that I've got to look forward to, and it sort of flips a little switch in my mind, and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's actually not too bad. You know, I'm okay, sort of thing.
You know, all right, let's just get real. For instance, you know, I sent you an email the other day. Just with some general like business, you know, frustrations, not necessarily about you, but I think I would say that 2 years ago I would have got a hell of a lot of a different email back.
Yeah.
You know, I can feel like you're just definitely a bit more centered and like, you know, I don't know, you know, less like pop-offy.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, it sounds like a silly word, but
it's true. Like it's definitely helped. How do I put it? In a professional sense as well. Like, I know how to control my frustration. I don't let my depression or anxiety manifest in anger now. And 100% right. Go back 3 years, and I probably would have called you up and ripped your head off, or, you know, took it as a personal attack where I was like, okay.
I think that's the difference, the big difference actually. Is like you seem better at separating yourself from like this is not necessarily a dig at me, for instance, but 100%. It's, you know, that seems to be a definite thing.
I'm the same with my wife as well. Like, you know, we'd get in, you know, silly couples arguments and things like that, and I would take it as like a personal attack sort of thing. Yeah. And the way my mind used to work is, you know, just blow up and get frustrated and, you know, say stuff you don't mean and just get really angry all the time. Whereas now I'll just be like, hang on a minute. Just reason with yourself for a second, take a step back, take a few deep breaths, process what's actually going on and the information you've been given, and then come back with with, I mean, not necessarily correct response all the time, but a better response than just exploding.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's definitely helped me big time.
I think, do you think that comes back to the mindfulness, like where you can feel
the circuit breaker?
The circuit breaker.
Yeah, definitely. Like I would do that, more often than not when I was first learning about it and stuff like that, because I was still learning to control my anger.
Yep.
I would use that so much through the day, and it would just it would help me slow down, sort of thing, if you know what I mean. Like I'd just take 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and I'd be like, hang on, this is working for me. I'm not getting as pissed off and angry. Yeah. This is actually a thing that works. Yeah, and it's really good to have strategies like that you can put in place and stuff. Yeah, awesome. For sure.
I want to just go back to footy for a second, and I'd like for you to maybe speak on like what footy means in your life and how it also helps you, like, because I'm guessing that the exercise aspect and the getting around the boys and all that is probably like something that is a constant in your life that helps you with the mental health thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did obviously touch on before that, you've got your football clubs, there's a lot of toxic masculinity there and stuff like that. I sometimes think that is a massive, it's a defense mechanism sometimes and a front for people who are actually struggling as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I know for a fact that I could probably name, 5 or 6 blokes in my footy club who are exactly the same, who suffer from exactly the same as me. Yeah. And, talking about it amongst your peers helps so much, especially in a football club environment. Yeah. But footy's, it's like everything to me. I've played it since I was, year 2 and 3 at school, and I mean, it sort of didn't.
And you got a bit of an interesting story about footy, don't you? Do you want to just touch on when you played for Sturt?
West Adelaide.
West Adelaide,
when I broke my neck. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. I mean, it didn't really sort of go the way, my footy journey didn't really go the way I was sort of wanting it to. When I was, 17, 18, I was playing league footy out at West Adelaide. Yeah. Going well, and the aim was to try and, push as far as I could. Ended up one game, going back with a flight of the footy, jumped up, took a mark, and I got tunnelled. My legs got taken out from underneath me and flipped upside down, landed on my head and broke my neck. Yeah. And that thing, probably something that happened when that happened as well. I didn't think about it, but that obviously knocks your mental state as well.
With that as well, I think. Do you feel like that might have impacted on?
Yeah, 100%. Looking back at it now, and in years gone by, as I was still playing footy just at a local level, I'd always think what could have been, and that would it still sort of boils in me today, but not as much as to get me upset and worked up. I've sort of let that go now. I've learned to deal with that. But years after that, when I was 25, 26, 27, I've been like, I'm not going to get that chance again. Yeah. And I didn't come to terms with that. Now I have, and I mean, what happens. It mustn't have been meant to be. But I did struggle with that for a long time, a really, really long time. Yeah. Yeah. But now I'm fine.
Oh, good, man. Yeah. Do you I'd like to. I think it'd be helpful for other people to understand. Maybe like when you're saying like you're much more woke to when you're going to start feeling a bit average. Yeah. Could you maybe like explain to people who might be feeling the same way that aren't so woke, like what would be some of the feelings or like symptoms that might be starting to happen in your life over the course of days or weeks where you weren't so woke to it before, but now you understand that it might be me starting to feel a bit average.
Yeah. So going into that, the first thing I'd say to people, and I really want to reiterate this point, is that it's very cliche, but it's okay to feel like that. Like it's okay to not feel okay. It's so cliche and we hear it a lot. Yep. But it's perfectly fine. Don't feel like you're a weird person or you're not a normal person for feeling like that. Mm-hmm. Sort of my little triggers, I will start to feel, well, in general, I'm an overthinker, but I will really process things. Like I'll overthink things. I'll start to feel like that heaviness. Mm-hmm. I'll start to feel lethargic. It might even manifest in like small little panic attacks. When I was at my worst, prior to starting to work for yourself and that, I'd literally just be driving down the road for no reason whatsoever. My chest would just feel like someone was like gripping my chest. I could struggle to breathe. I just start breathing really quickly, start hyperventilating, burst out in tears for no reason. With no idea why.
And you couldn't put it back to there was a particular trigger.
There's not one thing.
Maybe.
It's maybe a build up. I might have had one thing go wrong at work, or something outside of work might have happened, and I didn't sort of put them hand in hand. But I could never say on that particular day what's caused me to have this little panic attack sort of thing, and why is this sort of happening to me. But now I've got those coping mechanisms and things that I can do, and someone that I can go see to talk about it with. And I think that's the biggest thing is having someone, not only in a professional sense, like a professional who you go and see, but people who you're comfortable with talking about it.
Yeah.
I say it time and time again, it is the worst thing you can do is staying quiet.
Yeah.
You have to... I know it's uncomfortable and outside of some people's comfort zones, but the best thing I did was speak to someone about it who understands what's going on. Yeah,
definitely. So how does between that, is it one person you particularly go and see all the time, like that you have a relationship with now? Or
Yeah. I think that's another thing as well, is finding someone who you are comfortable to talk to about it. I went through probably 2 or 3 people. Not that they weren't good at what they did, they were very good at what they did, but I think you have to have that sort of gel with who you're speaking to. Yeah. And I didn't really feel like a good connection. They understood everything that I was going through, but the comfortability, the conversation wasn't there. Yeah. Sort of thing. And that's fine. You find someone who you're comfortable with. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
So what does the professional relationship, I suppose, look like? Is it like, because I'm guessing that sometimes when you might be having or feeling like you seem a lot better now, but when you might be coming up to have like a bit of an episode, or is it like, I'd just like to know how it actually works between you and this person. Like, can you just get in there quickly? Is there a huge wait time? Like, how does that sort of function?
Generally with mine, who I go and see, you do have your set appointments, and obviously because mental health conditions are very prevalent, obviously, and people do go and address them a lot more nowadays, which is great. But that then also puts the strain on the availability of who you go and see. They're always available for me in my particular situation via phone call. Yep. If I'm ever feeling like at a loss or overwhelmed, I'll call. I can call them straight away and talk to them. If they're in a session, they'll take 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes. To chat to me if they need.
That's unreal.
But having that point of contact is massive. It is huge.
Yeah, that's killer. How do you see like mental health and the workplace functioning together? Like, what are the things you think are important, especially in like a environment we're in where it's lads, probably a bit of that toxic masculinity going on where guys would not want to admit they're not feeling great. What do you think's important to implement or speak about in the workplace? Yeah,
I think just to make sure, first of all, people are comfortable and understand that, like I just said before, it's okay to not be okay. Yeah. To make sure people in the workplace are there to talk to you about it. They're there to understand your issues. I mean, we see each other, every day. The people at work are the people who you see all of the time. And they have to, for instance, if I came in and you could tell that I wasn't right or anything like that, a 5-second chat or something like that to understand that, I might not be my best today, this is why I'm going through something. Just that understanding in the workplace. And I think people knowing that they can come to work and feel average, but that's okay because people around them know something's going on and it's a comfortable environment to still be in while you're feeling like that. A lot of people are scared to go into work because they think that they'll be judged because they're not feeling great. And people might not always have to delve into it deeply, but I just think that understanding needs to be there, that people aren't going to be 100% bright and bouncy all the time at work 100% of the time. That's just not how the human brain functions. I think first and foremost it's really important that people understand when you're at work it's okay to not be at the top of your game all the time.
I'd say, and mate, that's so from my perspective, being you know, the leader of a company, man, I'll tell you, that's a burden actually.
Yeah.
Like, because a hell of a lot of the time I'm rocking up to work and not feeling like I want to see anybody.
Yeah, 100%.
But I don't have that. I just don't really have that ability to do that, for lack of a better word. So that is quite a burden actually. Sometimes I find that pretty hard to deal with, where you just you know, those, when you have those down days, and they definitely happen a lot as a business owner. They're difficult to deal with. I think you definitely get better at it over time, but you do have days where
I think for sort of like a lack of a better term, you're like a dad figure at work. Like you're the owner. End of the day, everyone's going to be looking at how you are. And I guarantee everyone would probably be able to tell if you're sort of having an off day. And that's sort of something, you know, I've said to you in passing before, you know, if you're not feeling good, man, just chat to me. You know, it's important.
That.
Yeah, like
you know when I'm not right.
Yeah, it's just because, like, I genuinely care. Like, I know how hard it is, like, battling mental demons, feeling horrible coming into work and everything like that. And I just want people to understand that I don't care. Like, I'm not going to judge you for what you're going through. Just, if you need someone to chat to,
I appreciate you when you do that, man. I really do.
Yeah.
Just lastly on that, I'd like to ask, like, so when you're having those off days, you know, like we've spoken about just now, so how do you, like, you don't mind it when people say to you, hey mate, like, you know, you're not feeling the best today?
No, it's that care factor. Like, if someone, okay, like I you know, people have told me I've got a grumpy face walking around sometimes or whatever. Like, I can deal with that. My wife tells me that and stuff like that. But if someone can genuinely sense that, you know, I'm not good, it makes me feel less odd, if you know what I mean. Like, when someone
you actually appreciate when they...
If someone asks me, I'm like, you know, it's okay. They actually genuinely care. You know, it's nice to hear that. And I say that with the boys. I'm out in the field, you know, some of the blokes that work sort of under us sort of thing. I've been able to tell that they're not good, and I've asked them, and I can tell, speaking in latter days or, you know, later that day, that they actually really did appreciate checking in on them.
Yeah, because 100%. Because I think sometimes it might, it probably does maybe come down to culture a bit and the person, because I feel, you know, sometimes people might want to snap your head off if you ask them, like, you know, well, fucking, it's not right, you know. So I think maybe that might be part of creating the culture. Hey, is like, you need to create that culture where we all maybe admit or let everyone know that, hey, we're all human, man. Like, I have really shit days as well. So maybe they do feel a bit more comfortable to just, like, be like, actually, you know what? I'm not really feeling that good today. Thanks for noticing.
Exactly.
You know?
The acknowledgement and the comfortable culture is exactly the first and foremost point that I think at a work environment. The comfortability factor. As soon as people know that they're right to say, just like what you said, I feel like shit.
What advice would you give to a young fella, like, if you zoom back to when you were 18, you know, I'd like to know what you would say to a young fella who, or doesn't it, a young lass who might, you know, be not feeling so good, but they're not really too sure about what to do. Maybe they don't even want to admit that they're feeling shit house. What advice do you have for those sorts of people, you know, going through what you've been through, and, you know, everything's easy in hindsight, so I'd say you'd probably have some good advice for them?
I think the good part about young people nowadays, before I go into that, is that mental health is recognised a lot more. So there's more services, contacts, and things like that you can go seek out. But if I was looking at 18-year-old me, and I was feeling like that, I'd say, you know, just go see someone, whether it be your GP or something like that. You can go do a mental health assessment at your local GP, and then they'll guide you in the right direction from there with recommendations and things like that. And don't be scared. I know it's hard in the time and place. It's just like, you know, taking a deep breath before you go underwater for 5 minutes in a breath holding competition. As soon as you're under there and you do it and you get back up or whatever, it's done deal. You're fine. It's behind you. It's taking that initial plunge is what's really hard. But once you're there, people make you feel so comfortable, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from or anything like that. So just take that first step, go get yourself assessed and make yourself feel comfortable with who you're around, and go from there.
That's
definitely
good advice. And I think that sort of goes to everything in life. The first step is always the hardest, you know, and then almost it. And I think that's really important point to let these young people know, anybody actually, is that the first step is the hardest, and then almost like everything you do after the first step, you look back and you think, why didn't I just do that?
Yeah.
Ages ago, it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
So you always,
exactly right.
You always, one thing I carry now is like I always make things out to be worse than what they're going to be. They're never as bad as I think they're going to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
sort of catastrophize something.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as worse as what goes on.
Yeah, and especially from a mental health perspective, because that's what you're doing, isn't it? You're getting in your head so hard that
massively,
you know, you can just totally talk yourself out of anything.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like it's a big release, man, as well. Like when you're so scared to go and talk to someone, but then it's almost like it builds yourself up, because you come out of the first session or you come out your doctor's appointment and you're like, I did it.
Yeah.
You know, I went and did that. Like
What does that feel like, mate? Because that first, do you remember the first time?
I do.
What was it like?
I thought I would come out sort of like whatever, like I'd be still a mess after it and stuff like that. But it literally felt like a weight, honestly, a ton weight was lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah.
Man. It was a massive release. I've done the first step because I want to get better. Man, it wasn't as hard as what I thought.
Oh.
Like they just listened to me. They understood, like they weren't judgmental.
Yeah.
And they got me on the right path to where I am now, is, you know, feeling a lot better than where I was. Yeah.
Yeah. So good, mate.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Well, mate, I think we might wrap it up. I think.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on and for being so, vulnerable, man. You know, that's huge, and appreciate everything you do around our workplace. You know, you always hit me up saying, you know, we're trying to build it into our workplace, and you're definitely leading that, and it's huge for us. So thanks, man. Thank you for that.
All good.
And I guess I'm hoping that any of the boys who might be listening to this from our workplace, they 100% know that, you know, if they ever need to come to somebody, I think you would appreciate it if they came to you.
Yeah.
So thanks so much, mate. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate. Ta.
Thanks for tuning in to another Plumbify podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and all the usual podcast platforms.